to The Couple That Pods Together. My name's Kelsey.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome back to another exciting episode. This episode, we are going to be talking about movies, specifically the movies that were nominated for the Oscars this year.
Yes, the 2024 award season is officially over now, but we wanted to do like sort of a recap of that. I don't know what you call it, class of movies.
I guess you could call it a class.
Yeah.
Maybe just these are the ones that people paid money to talk about.
Yeah, that's fair.
Chris and I watch the Oscars pretty much every year. We try and watch as many of the Oscar-nominated movies as we can. So we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. So where did you want to start with we're gonna run through the Best Picture nominees. Mm-hmm. Where did you want to start?
It's a great question. Let's start with the one that we did not see.
Okay. So you want to talk about the substance?
Yes. So Chris and I were so close to watching all the movies that were nominated for Best Picture this year. We missed it by one, and we did not get a chance to watch The Substance. I still really want to watch it. I've heard great things about it.
I personally do not want to watch it. Have heard great things about it, but the genre is not my favorite, so I was sort of reluctant to pick it up.
Yes. It is definitely more on the horror thriller side. I've heard body horror is the big deal with that one. And we saw some clips while watching the Oscars, and yes, indeed, I can agree that body horror is a thing, and I need a buddy when I do end up watching it. Luckily, a friend of ours said he'd be down, so one day I just need to invite him over. Chris will
It's not
do
me.
whatever upstairs, and he and I will watch it downstairs. I can't watch movies like that by myself. Like, I probably could, but it'd have to be during the day. I'd have to, like, sit with it. All right, so while we didn't watch The Substance, for any of you out there who don't know anything, haven't heard about it, don't know what we're talking about, The Substance is a movie. It's about a fading celebrity. I'm just going to read you the blurb here I found on IMDb. It's a fading celebrity takes a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. And from what I understand, it sort of creates this person that is her, but younger. And, like, it's not like she herself is made younger. There's a version of her that, like, comes out of her.
Yes.
And then walks around while she stays where she's at.
So the aging celebrity is played by Demi Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger one is, what's her name? Margaret Qualley?
Qualley?
Yeah.
Yes.
From what I hear, both great performances, and definitely, like you said, definitely body horror. I successfully guessed it for that it would win Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and it did, because it has some truly grotesque imagery in it, which
Yeah.
I appreciate the point they're making. I think at a certain point, though, I'm sort of just like, that's a great point. I don't want to watch it.
And you know what? That's fair. It's not going to be for everyone. Yeah, like, I want to watch it because I do think it's an interesting point to be made about, obviously, it gets talked about a lot, but women, especially in the Hollywood industry, right, once they reach a certain age, they're just considered too old, and men have that problem. I'm not saying they don't. It's not as prevalent.
It's not the same problem, for sure. Men can be well
into their, like, 50s, still playing starring roles as the romantic lead and all that stuff, while women, it's like, once you're past 35, maybe not even 35, sorry, they're gonna find someone younger.
Yeah.
So I definitely I want to watch it. Haven't watched it. But we will say it did win for Best Makeup and Hairstyling. It got nominated for a few other categories.
Demi Moore was definitely nominated for lead actress. She even won the Golden Globe,
A
which
lot of
sort
people thought she
of,
was going to potentially take the Oscar for that.
yeah, it was definitely in question. She might have been the one.
So yes, The Substance was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actress in a Leading Role with Demi Moore, Best for Directing, Makeup and Hairstyling, which what it won, and then also Original Screenplay. So, yeah, we don't really have much to say about The Substance as we did not watch it, but wanted to bring it up since it was one of the nominees
Yes.
and go from there. Why don't you pick the next movie we're talking about?
Sure. I think for the rest of these, I think that we are going to have a lot more opinions and thoughts on these. So let's do The Brutalist next.
Okay, we're jumping right into The Brutalist.
Yes.
Okay.
This was one that I kind of insisted we watch at home because it is 3.5 hours long.
Yes.
And I'm a little glad that we did that because that definitely made it easier to digest, even though it has an intermission built into it. The Brutalist follows, is he Hungarian, I believe?
Yes.
A Hungarian architect fleeing the war in Europe, played by Adrian Brody, named Laszlo. And he comes to America and essentially tries to basically gives his hand at the American dream. He wants to make it big, and he has some setbacks, and he has some successes and some failures, and it's just sort of a chronicling the rise and fall, etc., of this fictional architect. So, right off the gun, what did you like? What are your thoughts on it now that you've sat with it for a while?
Now that I've sat with it for a while, I thought it was a good movie. Did not need to be as long as it was.
Yeah,
I thought that movie could have been a solid 2 hours. I wouldn't have even said it didn't need to be over 2 hours.
yeah,
That's
and
my
there's
personal thought on it.
and I don't want to be one of those people who's like, "Oh, I can't sit down and watch a movie. That's ridiculous. Like I don't have the
Oh,
patience for that."
oh,
But
we are
like,
not those people. We will sit down and watch a long movie and there's it's very like rare that I feel like I watch a long movie and go, "Oh my God, it was so long." It's I can watch a long movie and be entertained. It's just that one there were so many sweeping and long shots, which I understand. The cinematography was really great, which is why I got nominated for cinematography.
I should also point out that it won Best Cinematography.
However, there was just so many like just long sweeping shots with the musical score and very beautiful, very whatever. Like I swear that it might be me exaggerating, but I swear 40 minutes of that movie is that.
Yeah, it did feel
It
like
feels like a lot
if
that
they really
wasn't
wanted to
necessary.
settle in and spend their time in this world and kind of get the viewer to be comfortable in this narrative, at certain points it did feel like it should have been a miniseries, where
Yeah.
like there were points where it was like this doesn't necessarily further the narrative, but it does further the tone, which I totally get as a storyteller. So I don't know. It's not like it was wasted or needless, but maybe just it was an odd format for it.
That's fair. Like I do think The Brutalist is a good movie. I do want to say that up front. I enjoyed it. I am very glad we watched it at home
Yeah.
because that was it was a lot. It's a slower movie, and I know that can be harder for some people to have to like to be enticed. Some people just aren't in aren't going to vibe with a slow movie.
Yeah.
And I can sympathize with that. I have to be in the right mindset to want to sit through a slow movie. And this was a slow movie. Nothing necessarily wrong with it being a slow movie, but it was slow.
Yeah.
And it is 3.5 hours long.
Yeah.
And you feel those 3.5 hours.
You do.
I thought it could have used a bit more editing personally because while I'm not going to be against a movie being long. I do feel like sometimes directors think, well, my movie can be as long as I need it to be to get what I say done. And I like that to a point, but then there's times where I'm but keeping it a solid 2 hours is also great. Like, some movies don't need that full amount of time.
Yeah.
Like, not every movie needs to be a 2-hour movie. Movies sometimes need to go back to an hour and a half. And that's okay. That doesn't mean they're bad movies. There's plenty of great movies that are an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
I feel like Hollywood as a standard has gone like, movies have to at least be 2.5 hours now. Gotta hit. It's almost like they feel like they have to hit a minimum of time now, and that feels weird to me.
Yeah. And you and I have talked at length that, like, there's not really such a thing as, like, a mid-budget movie anymore. Like,
Right.
everything is a blockbuster or it's a tiny indie movie that has a shoestring budget. And I think that is a symptom of that.
Or it's a movie that's gunning for an Oscar.
Right.
And they're throwing all their money not at it being a blockbuster, but at it being able to win awards. And that's what I feel like The Brutalist is. I feel like that's a movie that had a lot of money behind it, that they threw at it, and that's what came of it.
Yeah. There were a lot of things that I liked about it. My dad was an architect, so I have a soft spot for stories about architects. He wasn't a brutalist. That was
Which I'm a little happy about. I don't think I'm a fan of the brutalist architecture myself.
it is definitely a style. And it's I mean, there are lots of reasons for the brutalist style, which they actually talk about in the movie, which I thought was pretty cool. That being said, it's not a popular style. I think that a lot of the costumes were really good. Like, there was stuff that looked both, like, super comfortable and, like, period appropriate, which I thought was neat. The movie is bright. I could see, like, all of the things I was supposed to see, which sometimes I feel like is an issue in a lot of movies, where it's like, I can't see what's going on. I know this scene is at night, but it kind of seems like you don't want me to see what's happening on screen.
That's very true, and I do like that, and I really appreciate that about a movie when it's like, hey, this is taking place at night, but don't worry, we're lighting it properly. You know, it's very aware it's at night, but you're going to be able to see everything. We're not just going to leave you in the freaking dark to just go, maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Can't tell.
During Lord of the Rings, one of the guys behind the scenes was setting up a light, and I think it was Elijah Wood said, hey, where is this light supposed to be coming from, like, in the world, like, in the universe? And the guy setting up the light just goes, same place as the music, kid.
You know, and there is something to be said for that. And some people could learn from that. Looking at you, Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah, that was
That
rough.
was terrible. If you're gonna do a night scene, like, light it properly.
Yeah.
So I can see it. There's plenty of previous examples, Lord of the Ring being one of the great ones. They have a scene that takes place at night in the rain. You can see everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Everything's in different shades of blue, but you can see everything that's going on, and that's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, back to The Brutalist.
Yes.
It also won for Best Original Score.
Do you want me to go through the ones it was nominated for, and then we can talk about the winners
Sure.
for it? All right. So, The Brutalist was nominated for Best Picture, got nominated for Best Lead Actor in Adrian Brody, got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Guy Pearce, got nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Felicity Jones, and got nominated for, had Best Cinematography nominated for Best Director, nominated for Best Film Editing, nominated for Best Original Score, nominated for Best Production Design, and for Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah, man, I
So
forgot
a,
how many that was nominated for.
a hefty list of
Yeah.
nominations.
The three at one were Best Original Score, Best Cinematography, and Best Lead Actor with Adrian Brody.
Mm-hmm.
Which Adrian Brody did a pretty solid job. I think he does have an advantage over other nominees, considering the fact that he was up there for 3.5 hours of your time. You know.
Yeah, you had a lot of time to spend with him. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. You had a lot of time to spend with him.
Before we move on, I did want to give a quick shout out to both of those supporting noms because Guy Pearce was actually really incredible. You've probably seen Guy Pearce somewhere. He's most known for Memento. He was the bad guy in Iron Man 3, I think. Spoiler alert for Iron Man 3, because that is a surprised villain reveal. But Guy
Who
Pearce
was he
is...
in Iron Man 3?
He was Killian. He was the guy who worked for Tony Stark way back in the day. And then he gets upset with him because he, like, didn't invite him to be... I can't remember exactly what the backstory is. Iron Man 3 is my least favorite out of the three. He ends up being bad.
Okay.
But Guy Pearce is a terrific actor, and from what I hear, he's just a really nice guy. He is the absolute devil in this movie. And he's the devil in the way that, like, he'll smile to your face and he'll invite you in. But the entire time, it was so obvious that he was just, like, Laszlo was just, like, a trophy for him. Like, oh, look at this, like, immigrant that I found and I picked up and put on his feet. Like, I made this guy. Look at how great he is. Which is a reflection on how great I am. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Felicity Jones, because that was also... I mean, that's a really tough part to play. She had a lot going on. I mean, it was just a... I don't want to say it was weird. It was just like her character just had so much on her plate, and she definitely conveyed the struggle of all of it, which I thought was really cool.
So that was The Brutalist.
Yeah, looks. I think it's your pick next.
We'll just go down the list here. So, next one we're going to talk about, A Complete Unknown. And I decided I'm going to do this with all of these. So sorry we didn't do it with The Brutalist, but Chris gave a good synopsis of that one. But I'm going to read the little synopsis for A Complete Unknown. If you don't know what it is, A Complete Unknown says, in 1961, an unknown 19-year-old Bob Dylan arrives in New York City with his guitar and forges relationships with musical icons on his meteoric rise, culminating in a groundbreaking performance that reverberates around the world. And man, did that have a lot of big words in it that I wasn't expecting before I read it. So, so this is the Bob Dylan movie.
Yes, which I found out during the credits, and then I kind of looked into it. This is based on the book Dylan Goes Electric, which is sort of his... It really covers him coming into fame being a folk musician and then making a conscious decision to change genres.
Yeah. So, what did you think of the movie?
I'm pretty sure we have a very similar view on this one, which was the performances were incredible. All of the actors did their own singing. I think they all played the instruments too. But all of the performances were incredible. They absolutely nailed it. That being said, that was kind of all there was to the movie. It was a string of stage performances, which was cool, but it also felt like there wasn't a lot of meat to the story, in my opinion.
Yeah, for the most part, I agree with you on that. I'd say it was a lot of musical performances. I think it did, and this might be my misremembering. But I think it did slightly better. Well, maybe not. It did about average for me for maybe for like Bohemian Rhapsody, that
Yeah.
movie for Queen. Like that one felt like it's a reason to put on a Queen concert.
Yeah. I mean,
And
we've talked about this before, but we came out of Bohemian Rhapsody going, "Oh, that was so awesome." And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, I don't think I like that movie. I think I just like Queen.
yeah. And so I think the I think A Complete Unknown did a lot better than Bohemian Rhapsody did about when the performance were going on, because I felt like Bohemian Rhapsody, it was just like, oh, and now here's a song. Why?
Yeah.
Because Queen is doing Queen stuff. Um, and with A Complete Unknown, they're often at a festival.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be performances, or it's so and so getting discovered, so there's going to be a performance because they're getting discovered.
Right.
And I think my biggest takeaway, I had two big takeaways from seeing A Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
One was that I really like folk music.
Yeah.
And I don't think it really registered to me until I went to that movie. I will admit, right before we went to go see the movie, I turned to Chris and I just said, I know the name Bob Dylan, but I don't know if I know who Bob Dylan is. Like, I've heard that name so many times, but like before
But
that
like,
movie,
if someone
I
had
was like,
walked up to you and said, "Hey,
who's Bob Dylan?
Name a Bob Dylan song,"
Even if someone went, who's Bob Dylan? I don't even know if I'd be able to tell them that he was a singer. Like, I just isolated. The name was familiar to me, but I could not tell you what he sang ever. And then Chris's response was, you know a song. You'll probably recognize some songs in the movie." And I did.
yeah.
Um, but it was kind of fun because I found like most of the performances, I was vibing with every performance, which was cool also because, as you said, all the actors did their own performances, they did their own singing, and so it was really cool to watch. And I vibed with all of that. And then my second takeaway
Yeah.
is that Bob Dylan's an asshole.
Yeah, he's not. He does not come off in a good light in this
And I was
movie,
just like,
which is wild
oh,
because he's involved in it.
isn't it just the craziest thing when someone's involved in their own biopic or something, and then it's like, did they know that they were coming off as an asshole? Because that's how the guy comes off. He comes
Yeah.
off as kind of an asshole,
Not
and
not nice at all.
he blatantly cheats on his partner multiple times,
Yeah.
and then is upset when she decides to move on.
Correct. Yeah.
And obviously, not it's a movie, so not all of it is reality, but it draws on reality, and his affair with one of the other singers was a well-documented affair,
Yeah.
that they were hooking up with each other, and it was an affair. So
Yeah, which
you
I
don't know
kind of
about
I just
something.
wanted to give a shout out because I think I said this while we were sitting in the theater. Slight spoiler alert for Complete Unknown. I have never seen a movie use the Cuban Missile Crisis as like an apocalypse, the world is ending, like
Yeah.
feel, because that's how their affair started. Is everyone thought that the
They
nuclear holocaust was going to kick off,
they
so he
literally
wanders
thought they were
into a
dying.
club and finds her, and then they just spend the night together because they didn't
Uh,
think they were going to live to see the next day.
he didn't wander into a club. He was already performing at the club. She found him
She
in
found
the
him. That's
movie.
right.
Just had to fact check you real
I
quick.
had that. Yeah, you're right. I had that backwards.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. It was very much like people were either trying to flee as if they could outrun nuclear missiles, or they were just like hunkering down with someone and just being like, it's the last night. I want to be with someone and forget about this mess.
Yeah.
And then to wake up and find out, no, the world didn't end. And that's it was really cool to see because obviously, as we were not alive during that time.
Yeah.
So, like, we don't know what that experience was like. I imagine it would be terrifying.
When that event is portrayed, it's usually got like the president in a boardroom. You're looking at like JFK, and you're looking at like generals, and like
Right,
you're
you're looking
looking
at the
at
people in charge.
in charge. But this was very ground level, and I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen like a narrative use this as just sort of like a device to push the story forward, which was cool.
Yeah, so quick note, for A Complete Unknown, it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Lead Actor with Timothy Chalamet. I thought he did a great job.
He did.
Best Supporting Actor for Edward Norton, which I was surprised Edward Norton could sing. So he did a good job too.
He did.
Best Supporting Actress for Monica Barbaro.
She
She
killed
killed it.
Amazing.
She was she was phenomenal. If she wanted to continue singing, I would be down.
Like
Or just I want to see her more things.
Her what's her character's name? Joan?
Joan, yeah.
Yeah. She completely upstaged Bob Dylan every single time, and it was incredible to watch.
Yeah. All right, and then it was also nominated for Best Costume Design. Nominated for Directing. Nominated for Sound, which is good if you're a musical thing. You want
That's
to be
true.
nominated for
Yeah.
Sound. And then for Best Written for Adapted Screenplay.
Right.
A Complete Unknown didn't take home any awards. It felt
That's
like
true.
a movie that was happy to be there, happy to be nominated, in
Yeah.
my opinion. I don't know if the people who made it were like really gunning for them Oscars. I think it did a good job. I think it's great that it's included. I think I can't really think of any of those categories if we felt that any of them deserved to like fully win.
So
It's hard.
the thing I wanted to jump in with was this is directed by James Mangold, who also directed Walk the Line.
Yeah.
This movie also features Johnny Cash,
Yep.
which I thought was fun. And the other thing I wanted to say was Timothy Chalamet won the Screen Actors Guild Award for Best Leading Actor a couple weeks before the Oscars. He made a big stir with his speech, basically, because it was very unapologetic, saying, like, I'm here because I want to be one of the greats. And people, that divided people. A lot of the actors really liked that. But that also was kind of a factor in the race leading up to the Oscars.
Yeah, it was. I think that was a surprise where people were like, "Oh, maybe Timothy Chalamet will take the Oscar." He did not.
Yeah.
As we had already said, Adrian Brody took that one. But good movie.
Yeah.
If you like folk music, I'd check it out because I mean it's really cool. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. Next one.
Moving on. So next we'll jump to Conclave.
Woo.
One of our favorites of the year, honestly.
Yes. Before you start, I'm gonna read the blurb. I got it right here. When Cardinal Lawrence is tasked with leading one of the world's most secretive and ancient events, selecting a new pope, he finds himself at the center of a web of conspiracies and intrigue that could shake the very foundation of the Catholic Church. Dun dun dun.
Yes. Like 2 weeks before this came out, we saw one trailer for it, and we looked at each other and we were like, yes, like give me that right now.
Yeah.
So shoot, what are your thoughts?
Really liked that movie.
So good.
It's honestly, Conclave is probably one of my favorites of the movies that were nominated. It's one of the ones where I think we saw it, And I think at leaving it, I was like, that's gotta be nominated for an Oscar, right?
Yeah, it has an incredible cast. It's got this very like compelling, tight woven like thriller mystery, and it's got. I never thought that this would be me, but it's got one of my favorite aspects of a movie, which is it's just people talking about what religion should be.
You knew this was something you enjoyed though. Like this is not
It
the
is.
first movie that has popped out to you where you're like it's two people talking and I love that. I want more movies like that. You said that like a few years ago now, so you
With
can't just be like I didn't
it
think I'd
was
be this guy after this movie. No,
it
you've
was
known you've been
it
this
was a
guy
few
for a
years
while.
ago with the two popes,
Yes.
which was also nominated for Oscars, which was just Pope Benedict and who would be Pope Francis talking about their views on the Christian church and what it should be. There's a lot of that bleeding over into Conclave, where in deciding who should be the next pope, they're also deciding what direction the church should go, which I find really compelling. I was raised Catholic.
Yeah. No, it is really compelling. I remember leaving the movie and going, "Wow, that movie was intense." It had my heart racing.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
like I was freaked out at some points. And then I remember looking and being like, "Oh my god, this movie's rated G?"
It's PG, first of all.
Oh, sorry, PG.
But
PG.
but
But
yes, we had a discussion where I'm like, they don't swear. They're not talking about like
yep.
anything inappropriate, but like
It
just
is
because
a
it
bunch of cardinals wanting to be the next pope. So yes, there's not going to be much swearing. There's not going to be taking the Lord's name in vain for sure. There's not going to be any like sexual things going on as they're trying to figure out who the next pope is.
just because it is appropriate for kids doesn't mean that kids would be interested in it.
Yes. That was like Chris had to like tell me that. He's like it can be rated PG and not be a kids movie and it's like, "You know what? You're absolutely right. It's just been such a long time, I feel like, that a quote unquote adult movie had such a low rating.
Yeah.
Because I do honestly feel like a lot of people nowadays are like, oh, if it's gotta be adult, you gotta have that edgy, you gotta have the swears in there.
Right.
I mean, I'm one to talk. I know I can swear frequently, but you know, it's just it's become so standard
Right.
that oh it's not a kids movie so
We can go buck wild,
we can say and do all these things we just
Yeah.
got to make sure we don't get that R and we'll be great. But so it was surprising because there are moments where I like felt my heart like thudding in
Yeah.
my chest. I was so like
I mean, I say this to anyone who lets me talk about this movie, but when basically right before they start voting, the main character Cardinal Lawrence discovers something that definitely changes his opinion of how this vote should go, of who should be the next pope. So then they go through the process of locking themselves into the chambers. They have to, get rid of their phones. They have to go through this very like traditional, like ritualistic process, and the entire thing, like my heart was not pounding as hard as it was when they locked themselves in for that first vote at anything this year.
yeah, no, because I mean, it's intense because you definitely, it impresses on the main character, Cardinal Lawrence. Like, you feel his responsibility at making the right choice. Because
Right.
if the wrong choice is made, I mean, the Pope is the Pope. Like,
Until
nothing
death.
happens until they're gone.
Right.
So like it's big, and when you have all these dissecting views on what Christianity is and what the Catholic Church should be, you have someone there who is very conservative. Is that the correct word? Like he is
Yeah,
very
for
much
sure.
like, hey, the Italians should have that role again. Like very much like, hey, this is how it started, this is how it should be, we need to go back to our roots
I can't
type
remember if
thing.
it's him or one of the other cardinals makes a comment that he doesn't want women to be pastors, to be priests.
Yes, I think it's him because he's very much like a
He's
no, we
very
can't
much
start
old
doing this
school.
new thing. Like we need
Right.
to go back to the old ways and all
Yeah,
this stuff.
it's Stanley Tucci's character who says that because he goes, "That's where we disagree. I think women should be priests. He doesn't."
Yes.
And it's just like all stuff like that is being brought up constantly of just like, hey, here's what a progressive church looks like, and here's what a more conservative church looks like, and like moving forward, this is going to be a huge deal.
And then, politics come into play because
Yeah.
they're definitely like people are making deals. Like there's people talking to each other. They're like whining and dining without the whining and dining part, but they're talking to each other and there's conversations that say, I can't say what my actual stance is because these people won't vote for me and I need them to vote for me before I can come
Right.
out hard on this stance. The caveat being this is all made up. No one knows how a pope is selected. That is a very like closed off secret of the Catholic Church and the
Yes.
Vatican that no one talks about. So this is all obviously once the doors close, and what happens in the movie is all fictional, but it feels real because what else would they be doing? Like,
Yeah,
how
I
else
mean,
are you supposed to make this
at no
happen?
point are you going, well, they would never do that. Like
No,
all of the
right.
stuff, all of the process that they go through is like, well, that makes sense.
Yep. So it's a very intense movie.
Phenomenal
Very,
cast.
very good. I will say Chris and we talk about religion and capital C church and our feelings on that a lot. So we really enjoy discussions that kind of like dive into and not just well that's what that says. We
Yeah.
really enjoy the dissecting of these types of things. So we really enjoyed this movie. I'm going to quickly go through what it was nominated for. So it was nominated for Best Picture, as as all of these are. It was also nominated for Best Lead Actor for Ray Fiennes.
Hmm.
He was great. I really wanted him to get it, but I didn't think he
Amazing.
was going to.
Yeah, not his year for sure.
Not his year. I found this surprising because she had such a small role in it, but she was powerful in it. The Best Supporting Actress for Isabella Rossellini.
Yes.
She played a pretty small part, but it was
Yeah.
impactful.
Yeah, not a lot of screen time, but a lot
Yes.
of presence. I was reminded with her part when I saw that she got nominated. I told you, I reminded you of Mahershala Ali in
Yep.
Moonlight, who had about 15 minutes of screen time and
Yes.
won Best Supporting Actor.
So then it was also nominated for Best Costume Design, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, Best Production Design, and Best Adapted Screenplay, which I believe was its only winner, was the
Correct.
adapted screenplay.
It is based on a book of the same name, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
There were some really gorgeous shots in there, and I will just say, if you have not seen this one and you're looking to go into it based on our recommendation, skip the trailer. There's one
Yeah.
prominent scene in the trailer that was shown, which would have been a huge, which it would have been more impactful if I had not seen the trailer.
Yes. We've talked frequently about how trailers these days like to spoil the movie.
Yeah,
And while this one doesn't necessarily spoil who the Pope will be, it spoils like a scene that happens towards the end of the film that had you not seen the trailer you wouldn't be expecting.
yeah.
And that's all I'll say on it. Great movie. We recommend you go check it out for yourselves.
Oh, and as we were complaining about the Brutalist, this one is pretty much a tight 90 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it's nice and short. Gets to the point. No fluff.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. All right. Next one I'm gonna jump to because I am not following our outline, but
All
that's
right.
okay. Uh, we're gonna talk about the Nickel Boys.
Nickel Boys, yes.
Based on Pulitzer Prize winning novel by Colson Whitehead, Nickel Boys chronicles the powerful friendship between two young African American men navigating the harrowing trials of reform school together in Florida.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to Colson Whitehead because I actually saw him. I was at a writers' conference. He was fresh off of his Underground Railroad tour. He's just a really cool dude. So,
Before we
yeah,
talk about this, because it is, I just want to just put this out there since it only did get nominated for two awards, Best Picture and then Best Adapted Screenplay. Those were the only two things it got nominated for. So I just wanted to put that out there since it was such a short list.
yeah,
However, I think this was a movie that both Chris and I thought was really impactful.
yeah.
And yeah, tell us what you think, Chris.
Uh, this movie is really tough.
Yeah.
It's also one of the most immersed I've ever been in a movie. If you haven't seen anything on it, the entire story is being told in first person. So basically, you are looking at what the character is looking at. Especially right at the beginning, like, I felt like I was there. Like, he's sitting in his kitchen, you can see, like, a magnet sliding down the fridge. You can see, like, the breeze, like, moving the drapes. Like, it was just so immersive. And as you said, it's a detention facility. Nickel Academy is where they end up going. And there's so often in this movie where your viewpoint is not on the thing that's going wrong. And that's such a human thing, I think, where it's like, you know that's happening. You can, like, you can't focus on anything else but that. But, like, you can tell that the character is just sort of, like, hyper fixating on, like, the desk in front of him, or, like, playing with his sleeve. Like, little things that's like, I don't want to focus on the thing that is happening right now.
Well, right, because like there's a part before he goes to the detention facility where he's in class and the teacher's talking about like some very current news. But like even though like I will say it's not like the audio is muffled like you would do in like a normal quote unquote movie.
Yeah,
Uh it's the audio's not muffled, but because the focus is he's looking down at the desk, so like since the attention's on the desk, inherently you're not really listening. You as the viewer are not really listening to what's being said. Like you're
right.
aware of it, but that's not where your focus is because you're in this viewpoint, so your focus is on the desk and the hands and like scratching at the desk
Yeah.
like as like a nervous tick. So yes, it's definitely interesting having the full story go through first person. I don't think I've ever watched a movie told specifically in first person.
Definitely not one like this.
Hmm.
I know a few movies have used it as like a gimmick before, but
Right.
it was a very intentional choice, and I could not stop thinking about the fact that this was a book adaptation. So like a lot of this stuff was probably the details of being in first person point of view.
Yep. And it is interesting because you also switch whose head you're in and whose point
Right.
of view you are in. I found it really cool, and to show that aspect is when one of the main boys, I'm blanking on their names right now, when he gets there, there's a scene where he meets another boy, and then that scene is repeated in the other boy's point of view.
Right.
And that is the first time you see the face of the person that you've been in their head essentially
Yeah.
for the first time. And so that was really cool.
There's a lot. I mean, it takes place in the 60s, and there's a lot in this movie where they do intersperse like scenes from this detention center with scenes of like space and like rockets going to the moon and stuff. And after I sat with it for a while, I'm like, that was really jarring, and there was a specific reason, like that's why they did it. Like, I definitely feel like they did that to be like, hey, look, like, this, you think of, like, the 60s as like, oh, we were going to the future, we were going to space, this is so progressive of us. But then look at what we're doing. Look,
Yeah.
we have this detention facility where all of the white boys are off playing football and all of the colored kids are, like, being abused back here.
Basically being forced to do all the hard labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then other terrible things happening. And yeah, it's a heavy movie. I
It is.
I am someone terrible things can happen in a movie, and if there's some like space from them, I can kind of go, that's horrible, and it gives me a sinking feeling. But like I'm usually fine, not fine, but you know, like
Right.
I'm not breaking down, I'm not sobbing, and I thought I was making it through this movie. Like I've seen the horrors of it, but also kind of being like, okay, I'm good. And then there was a scene, and I just started sobbing,
Gotcha. Yeah.
and it hit me so hard. And then I remember even the movie ended, and I had like cleared my tears, and then you and I were just sitting there because we always sit through the credits,
Yeah.
but just sitting there. And then the more I just thought about it all, I started crying again. I'm getting teared up right now thinking about it,
I
just
know.
thinking about
Yeah.
everything, and it's heavy. So there is that warning there, but I think it's so impactful,
It
and
is.
it
Yeah. And the performances are incredible.
so good.
Was it his mom or his grandma?
It's his grandma. There's
Yeah.
the main.
I was sitting there watching the scene where she comes and visits him at the school, and I was like, she should be nominated for supporting actress. Like, this is incredible. I
Yes,
thought that during the scene.
her name is, I'm gonna butcher her first name. I'm so sorry. Um, Ingenue Elise Taylor.
Okay.
She was so good. It was
She's great.
honestly, she should have been on this best supporting actress list for nominees. She
It's not
was
very often that,
so good.
like, during a scene I'm like, this person should be nominated for an Oscar, but she did that for me.
Yes, she had like two really solid scenes.
Yeah.
That's just her like monologuing
Yeah.
essentially, but she was so good in those scenes.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's criminal that she didn't get nominated because oh, she was so good. She's the reason I cried.
Yeah.
She's the reason I got to let out all those tears.
I
But
think
yeah.
narratively it was really well crafted. And like you said, we went to this with a friend, and when we came out of it, he's like, "So, what do you think?" And I'm like, "I think I need to go home and hug my dog."
Did we go to this with
Yeah.
oh, I don't remember.
We got
I
out,
was so dazed.
and he was like, "What'd you think?" And I was like, "I think I need to go home and hug my dog," which is the only other time I've said that was Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because that
Right.
was basically animal cruelty the movie.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
was just like, I
This
wouldn't
is
say
just
it's like dismal, but it's like, it was just it ended on a very low note where it's like, we as humans need to be kinder to each other.
well, I mean, slight spoiler alert for the movie. It's it's a detention center in the 60s. It's it's there's been stuff about this. It was basically they put the minority kids into this facility because they were the bad kids, and yes, there were bad white people there too, but the white people were treated very differently.
Yeah.
And then you find out years down the line that the other kids were being abused, beaten, and then killed.
Yeah.
Essentially, these kids were basically being treated like it was basically like they were in prison, doing prison labor, doing all of this stuff, beaten when did something that was considered wrong. They were not allowed to talk to their families. Stuff was being kept from them.
Yeah.
If their family came to visit, they were being kept away. Like, it's all these terrible, terrible things that happened, there's plenty of instances of this happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it also like hits me hard because we're still finding facilities that were like this like, and
Yeah.
that I think is what shatters me.
Is that we're still finding like little pockets of this
We're
happening.
still finding the graves
Yeah,
of all the of
that we didn't know about.
yeah.
So,
And yeah, it hurts, and I hate how terrible humans are to each other. Ugh. Very powerful.
yeah.
Highly recommend people go see it if they can. Just know it's a very heavy
Yeah.
heavy movie, but it's very good.
I agree.
And with that,
Yes.
what's the
Okay.
next one we're going to?
I'd like to kick it off here. I'd like to instigate. I'd like to redirect that hate to a different energy, and I want to talk about Amelia Perez.
Oh, you want to go to Amelia Perez? You're like, let's move this type of energy over to Amelia Perez.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna do this one, and I'm gonna read the blurb, then I'm gonna read all the nominations, and it's a long list, and then we're gonna talk about it.
We're gonna get into it.
All right, Amelia Perez follows three remarkable women in Mexico, each pursuing their own happiness. Cartel leader Amelia enlists unappreciated lawyer Rita to help fake her death so that she can finally live authentically as her true self. This movie was nominated for, one second here.
An obscene amount of Oscars.
This movie was nominated for, I believe, 13 or 14 Oscars. 13. So Amelia Perez was nominated for Best Picture, Best Leading Actress for Carla Sofia Garzon, Best Supporting Actress for Zoe Saldana, Best Cinematography, Best Directing, Best Film Editing, Best International Feature Film, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, Music Original Score, Music Original Song twice, one for
Nice.
El Mal and one for Mi Camino. Mi Camino. Apologies. Best Sound and Best Adapted Screenplay. All right. There's the list.
Where do you want to begin with Amelia Perez?
I hate this movie.
It's not good.
It is so bad. I'll say this. Listen, Chris and I heard that this movie was bad before we watched it at home. Now, I am someone, I try and give the movie the benefit of the doubt until I have watched it. Yes, the noise plays in the back of my head, but usually if it does that, I try and watch it and try and look for the good things in it. And what I will say about Amelia Perez was I remember stopping like through it and looking to you and saying, this is so upsetting because there is a good movie in here somewhere.
Yep.
But it is not being executed correctly.
There's the bones of a good story somewhere in there.
Yes. It gets messed up. And I will say, you mess up big time for me if you're going to give me a musical, which if you don't know, Amelia Perez is a musical. I am a sucker for musicals. You can't find a musical out there that I'm not going to at least enjoy a little bit and find like at least one song that I won't be able to get out of my head. That is it's such a low bar for me to like a musical because I'm a sucker for them.
Yeah.
This had no business being a musical.
You were on a roll there, and I didn't want to stop you.
I'm
But
sorry.
at several points in there, I wanted to tell the audience we're on average we're pretty optimistic about things. We like to like things, so we will try and find the good in whatever we watch because
we don't typically like to like hate on things.
Right.
And I hope that is apparent on this one. Like I said, like we talked about The Brutalist. I didn't like how long it was, but overall I did enjoy The
Right.
Brutalist. Like I did think it was a good movie. I just didn't think it needed to be that long.
Yeah.
I did not like Emilia
We
Perez.
struggled to find any redeeming qualities of this film.
Listen, I wanted to like it because it's one of those things where okay, I'm going to say it straight up. It is a movie that is about a transgender woman.
Yes.
And so, it was really hard for me hearing all this hate. It's hard for me to go, well, is that because it's actually bad? Or is it because people suck and they want to hate on a movie because it has a transgender person as the lead role? So, I think I was already going in giving it way more credit because I wanted it to be better. I wanted it to not be bad because you want to prove all the haters wrong
Right.
who only hate on it for stupid reasons.
But it turns out
Unfortunately,
that the LGBT community, did I mess up that acronym?
LGBTQIA, yeah.
Yeah.
You just left out some, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry. That community also hates it because it's actually incredibly backwards in its representation.
Oh my god, yeah, watching it, I was like, oh, so, like, this person has said, hey, I am a woman and I want to live my life the way I am. And then the lawyer is like, cool. So, hey, doctor, this guy, he is having to
Yeah.
do all these stuff. And I just went, whoa,
Not
like
only
you're
did
not
the
respecting
lawyer,
this person at
not
all.
only did the lawyer do that, but the doctor who performs
did
who
it.
performs the operation also, like, all of them essentially referred to this person as male until the operation, and they
Yes.
basically insinuated that that was the thing that made them female.
That was the moment. And it was like,
And that
no.
is what is backwards about the representation, is that in our current day society that is not the case. It is, I mean, granted, the most progressive of us, hopefully one day everyone will respect the fact that you are that gender when you decide to be. Or when you realize you are.
Yeah, when you communicate to the rest of the world, this is me, this is who I am, the rest of the world should go, okay, that is you.
Yeah. Right.
It's just like when someone asks your name, you can tell them your name.
Mm-hmm.
And they should go, cool, that's your name. They shouldn't be like, no, you look more like an
Yeah.
Eliza to me. And it's like, what right do you have
Yeah.
to decide any of that?
How is that
for
any
me?
of your business?
Exactly. So that's what it should be, and it's very upsetting. I know I got upset when watching it because the movie doesn't really address it as an issue that they're
No.
using the incorrect pronouns, that
Not
they're
at all.
doing all this, and I'm just like, okay, I'm offended. Also, you're supposed to be scared of this person because it's a cartel mob boss
Yeah.
that literally kidnaps the lawyer in the beginning and is like, hey, and she's like, this person's gonna kill me. And then this person's like, so I need you to do some research on some doctors for me because
Yeah.
I'm wanting to transition and live my life. And it's like, okay, but this person's still threatening the lawyer. So, but the lawyer feels okay saying all this shit.
She's just like, okay, I guess I'm all right with this now.
But, like, also, like, she's okay with being like, hey, this person could kill me if I make them upset in any way. So let me go ahead and call them a man and say he, him, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it's already been proven in the movie that she's being washed while she does all this.
Yeah.
Freaking wild. So that made me mad out of the gate.
And then jumping back to the music real quick. It did win Best Original Song for, granted, probably the best song in the movie. Maybe? I don't know. Because it's hard to tell because most of the songs are not songs. They are just speaking to a rhythmic beat in the background. Which is, like, it's not even, you couldn't even consider that rap, you know?
Listen.
Like, this is, like, just speaking and then there's music going on in the background. I wouldn't call that a song.
No. So, like, listen, most musicals, they're going to release the soundtrack because people are going to want to listen to those bangers over and over again. I challenge anyone to tell me that they have the album for Amelia Perez and are listening to it because, oh my gosh, that music is not good. Listen, I don't speak Spanish, so, and it is a movie done entirely in Spanish, which is fine. Like, we have no issue watching foreign language films, no issue listening to songs in foreign language either.
Yeah.
But also when I was like, it's just none of it mattered. I don't know. It's just one of those things where I can't really say more than I hated it because there's got to be a point for the songs. And a lot of the times when they would break into song, I put songs in quotations because
Yeah.
it wasn't really songs. But anytime
I
they
can
did it,
confirm that Kelsey is doing air quotes every time she says songs.
but like anytime they did it, there was no real reason. It's just like, I guess we're singing now, but musicals do have a set of rules. People
Absolutely.
might, if they don't aren't used to musicals, they might not understand it, but the music is supposed to happen when words are not enough.
There is a rhyme and reason for musicals to be bursting out into song. It's, I wouldn't say the rules, but it definitely is
That's
an
fair.
intent behind them.
That's fair. So that's on the music part of it. And then we'd be remiss to talk about the fact that, okay, yes, it is in Spanish. We ourselves are not Spanish speakers, but there has been some, what's the word I want to use?
Pushback?
Pushback, thank you. Okay. So there has been some pushback from the Mexican community because of the fact that it's set in Mexico. And the Spanish is apparently atrocious. Listen, we're not going to understand that because we are not native Spanish speakers. We don't speak Spanish as a second language either. So we're not going to pick up on that. So I'm going to listen to them and say that I believe them when they say that.
It should be noted that not only did it offend the trans community, but also the Mexican community, because this film was made by a French guy who very vocally did not take steps to research or learn any more about the Spanish language or the Mexican culture.
Yeah, he literally was like, I have an idea of what Mexico is, and that's enough. So we're gonna set it in Mexico. And it's like, you can't do that. But he said it in Mexico and specifically brought up the drug cartel. And then it just, it came off very insensitive. And it's just like, okay, here's this French director who made it, who doesn't speak English or Spanish, and decided to make a movie set in Mexico with a majority of American actors. I don't necessarily want to blame any of the actors for it, because that also is something that comes from dialect coaches on set.
Right,
You should be having those types of people on set. So I mostly blame the director for all of this faux pas.
Which, if you'll allow me to use that as a segue, because this did win Best Original Song for El Mal. It also won Best Supporting Actress for Zoe Saldana.
Yes.
Which we have thoughts on, because I don't believe that Zoe Saldana can actually be called a supporting actress in this film.
No. I believe it was a play of politics here, where they were like, hey, there is no way she is winning for Best Lead Role. So if we make her a supporting actress, she'll win landslide because she is the lead actress in this movie. Just because the movie is called Amelia Perez does not mean that Amelia Perez is the only leading actor.
We call that The Great Gatsby.
I'd almost argue that Amelia Perez is the supporting actor or actress, and that the role that Zoe Saldana played is the lead
I would
actress.
argue that too, because I mean, this is the lightest spoiler I've ever given, I believe. But you begin and end the movie with Zoe Saldana's character, which is not like the most important metric for what a lead is. However, I think, especially with the way that this is set up, that is indicative that the focus is on her. Don't get me wrong, I love Zoe Saldana. She's terrific. I think I said to you after the Oscars ceremony, I said, I think it's the right person at the wrong time.
Yeah.
I think I mean, even her performance in Avatar was more nuanced than this.
Right. But yeah, we unfortunately disliking something and hating on it gives us a lot of stuff to talk about. But I
I
don't want
also
to
don't
keep
want to
talking
sit
about
here
this movie.
and be negative the whole time, so we can
Right.
definitely move on.
And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, we like to be positive. That one, it was. I think the thing that upset us the most about this one was we thought this movie was terrible, and yet it got nominated for so many things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we went on a tangent with that one.
Yeah.
But we're moving on.
We are moving on. What do you want to cleanse your palate with?
We're going to cleanse our palate with a movie that it might not be the best cleanse of palate. You know what? Actually, no. I had a movie we were going to talk about, but I think the best cleanse of palate for Amelia Perez is to talk about the other musical
Yes.
that was nominated. This is the way to go. We're going to move on to Wicked.
All right.
Woo!
Woo. Okay. Do you have a blurb?
I have a blurb.
Go
All
for it.
right. Elphaba, a young woman ridiculed for her green skin, and Galinda, a popular girl, become friends at Shiz University in the Land of Oz. After an encounter with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, their friendship reaches a crossroads. It's a good blurb, but I don't know if I would have ever described it like that.
So
That's
Kelsey, I will prep the audience for this by saying, Kelsey loves the stage show Wicked.
Yes.
She has seen it. Do you have a number off the top of your head?
I think it is. It doesn't sound like a lot. I think I've seen it 6 times, which doesn't sound like a lot. But we live somewhere where we have to travel to
Yeah.
see shows, even when those shows are traveling.
Yes.
So
Kelsey
it's
has
harder
made
to see.
Kelsey has made an effort to go see this several times.
Yes.
So she absolutely loves it. We had the pleasure of seeing it on Broadway, which was really cool. That was my first time seeing it.
I've seen it on Broadway twice.
Okay, let's calm down here.
Not to brag about it.
You did the toss thing
Toss,
with your hair.
toss.
Yeah. So going into this, like, this had a lot of hype for us going into it because it is one of your favorite musicals. Mm-hmm. And what did you think of it?
Well, what I want to say, because I knew I was going to like it, I was probably going to be disappointed with certain things. Okay, this is pre-seeing it, Kelsey.
Yes.
I was like, I was gonna like it. There's probably some things things were gonna be changed. I got it. Like, it was gonna be a thing. I also knew this was only gonna be half of the stage show. I knew this going in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna shout out my best friend Kayla because she was not excited for this. She was prepared to dislike this movie because she loves the stage show. I go see this show with my 2 best friends, Kayla and Jackie. Shout out to them. When I go see this show, I go with them. It is
Right.
it is our show, and because it's a show about friendship
And sisterhood.
and sisterhood at the end of the day. So I go see it with my girls.
Right.
Anyway, Kayla was prepared to dislike this movie, and I thought she was kind of hitting that hard. I was like, Kayla, it's not going to be that bad. But I still remember I sat next to her, and she goes, I just familiarized myself with this show, and if this half of the show is going to be 2.5 hours long, they better not miss a freaking beat. So the movie ends. I look over at Kayla. She's crying. And she goes, they did not miss a freaking beat. So, needless to say, I loved this movie.
Absolutely.
It's
It
so good.
definitely it definitely made me think that like, oh, hey, maybe Hollywood can do just bona fide musicals that aren't ashamed to be musicals again. Maybe we can do like
Yes.
the old Hollywood, like, we're not ashamed of this big, like, heartfelt production. And it might be super cheesy, but we're throwing all our whole heart into it. And it is what it is. And we're proud
Listen,
of it.
John M. Chu, please just continue to do musicals because you do them justice. Because he also did In the Heights.
He did do In the Heights.
And I enjoyed that. I've never seen a stage version of In the Heights, but I
I
really
believe
enjoyed.
I believe he got his start doing the Step Up sequels.
Oh. So like
There's your fun fact for John M. Chu.
fun fact, he knows how to get that choreography in there.
Yes.
I don't know. I love this movie. I recognize I am biased because I have been in love with this movie, this well, not that, this story,
Right.
the songs since I was a freshman in high school in
Mhm.
2004. I discovered it when it went to the Tonys, and I fell in love with it. I listened to it all the time.
Yeah.
And so like it's a big deal for me. Like I remember watching it and I'm excited because people who only see the movies, they don't know this, but they have song motifs of songs that won't be showing up until the next movie. And when that started
Just
playing,
great.
I almost started crying because I was like, "Oh my god, that's this song
Yeah.
that's not even going to be here yet, but it represents what's happening right now." And like I got chills. I thought everyone did an amazing job.
It was it was really well done. Just
Hmm.
all throughout. Can I ask you to run through the nominations as we dig in here?
Yes, you certainly can. All right, so Wicked was nominated for a decent number, which made me excited. So it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Lead Actress for Cynthia Erivo, Best Supporting Actress for Ariana Grande, Best Costume Design, Best Film Editing, Makeup and Hairstyling, Original Score, Production Design, Sound, Visual Effects. And the one thing I want to point out, it didn't get any nominations for Best Original Song. And I saw some discourse about that. There was a lot of people that were upset because they're like, how come Amelia Perez, this very bad musical, is getting nominated for Best Original Song? And Wicked is right here, and it has nothing. And here is my explanation for anyone who might not know this. Wicked, the movie, had no original songs in it. It took
Hmm.
every single song was in the stage show.
All of those songs
Now,
were written before 2003.
yes. So now, this next movie, they have stated Wicked Part 2, they will have new songs in it. They are working, they've already stated there's going to be original music for the movie. And most musicals when they go from stage to movie, they usually throw in a original song
Yeah.
pretty much so they can get nominated in this category.
Yeah.
Uh, I find it such a cool kind of powerhouse move that they decided they didn't need to do that for this first one.
Yeah. I will say, walking out of the movie, I was like, this movie is going to win at least Best Costume Design. And it did. Because every single person, like, even the background characters, have a unique individual, like, outfit, like, costume that is unique to their character. Like, everyone from, like, obviously, like, Elphaba, like, the two leads are gonna have their own costumes, and, like, the wizard, and, like, all of these characters that play a major part in the story, but also, like, even the background characters. Like, Bowen Yang's character has, like, a school uniform that is, like, uniquely adjusted to his character.
Right. Like,
Which,
everyone has, like, a school uniform, but it's not just the cookie cutter. Everyone
right.
has the same uniform. They're all different and stylized that way. So, yeah, they did a great job with that.
And obviously production design, which is, like, the sets and the general, I think of it as, like, the tone.
Right.
The sets and the production, the setting. That is incredible because Oz is alive. It's such a
Right.
weird looking place, but it looked real.
Exactly. And so, just to reiterate, Chris brought up production design because those were the two categories they won. They won Best Costume and Best Production
Yeah.
Design. Those were the two that it won for. Now, I predict for next year, when part two comes out, I predict Wicked's going to take home a lot more awards because it will be the quote unquote finale. I think a
Right.
lot of people saved their votes on Wicked because they knew a part two was coming.
That's a phenomenon for Oscars that has gone back a ways. They gave a bunch of awards to Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, because they were like, "Well, this is your last one. You stuck the landing. We're gonna give you a bunch of awards because it's kind of a weak year and you earned it."
Yes.
There's a lot of politics in Oscar voting.
Honestly, we could probably do a whole episode of Wicked on its own.
We could,
Let us know
yeah.
if you want us to do it when Wicked Part 2 comes out. Maybe we'll do it when Wicked Part 2 comes out because I am
Maybe.
hyped for that movie.
Uh,
If you haven't seen Wicked, my one point on going to see it, it's already out, so watching it, renting it, whatever, is so I tried to bring my mom to it. I thought my mom was going to love this movie, and like it takes a lot to get my mom to the movie theater. I love her, but she doesn't go to the movie theater very often. So I tried to get her to go, and she was kind of hemming and hawing. And at one point, she just goes, "Well, Kelsey, I do not like The Wizard of Oz." And I was like, "Mom, I also don't like The Wizard of Oz." Like, I'm sorry. I can recognize that The Wizard of Oz is a good movie and that people enjoy it. I don't enjoy sitting down to watch The Wizard of Oz. I really don't. So, but I love Wicked, and I took my mom to it, and she cried. And I was actually surprised that my mom cried. I wasn't expecting it. I know a lot of people are watching the movie and crying at the end. I just didn't expect it from my. I don't know why I didn't expect it from my mom. I get my emotional crying from
yeah.
her. So I don't know why
That's
I
true.
didn't expect it. Maybe because I didn't cry the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
So maybe I just didn't expect it from my mom, but
That's fair.
she cried and she really liked it. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend.
If you'll allow me a moment to talk about Wicked,
Yes.
I as soon as they announced that Elphaba was going to be Cynthia Erivo, I was pumped.
Yeah.
Because, as we often do, I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast, but you and I sometimes have to point out for each other that we really like someone.
Yes.
So, like, I know I've done it with you a few times where I'm
You had
like,
to do it for me with Taylor Swift, which was odd.
I think at one point I just referred to her as your girl, and you're
Yeah.
like, I do really like Taylor Swift, don't I?
Do
And
like her. She
sometimes
is my girl.
sometimes it takes someone pointing it out. You did that to me with Cynthia Erivo, where I didn't realize how much I liked her until you're like, yeah, Chris really has a crush on her. I'm like, I kind of do, don't I? We saw her in Bad Times at El Royale, which is a fun little mystery box movie. She sings in it, and she's phenomenal. Her character is also kind of, I wouldn't say frail, but she's very meek in it. Not long after, we saw her in the movie Widows, where she jumps in and she takes off her jacket and she is absolutely ripped. And it
Yeah.
was like her character was the complete opposite of the last character we saw her play, and I was just completely blown away by her. So
Yeah.
I was jazzed when it was announced that she would be Elphaba, because I'm like, it's she's gonna crush it. It's amazing, and
Yeah.
she did.
And she did. She crushed it.
She did
And I
the
am so excited to see her in the next one.
she did the defying gravity, like the thing, like her
The
version
riff.
of her
Yeah.
little riff in defying gravity. She did that at the Oscars, and I look at you and I went, so that's just something she can do. And
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, she just has that in her pocket.
No, she does, because I saw a talk show one night where they were talking about it. She goes, "Oh yeah, you just do it." And then she just stood up and just did it. Like, just the rift part. There was no build up, nothing. And she just did it. And
Just
it was
belted it out.
flawless. And it was just like, okay, you're amazing. That's fine.
Okay,
No, she crushed it.
that's all I wanted to say. We can move on.
No worries. We'll be talking more Wicked when part 2 comes out, so.
I'm sure. Yeah.
All right, next one. Where are we going?
Let's do I'm Still Here.
All right, I'm Still Here. A woman married to a former politician during the military dictatorship in Brazil is forced to reinvent herself and chart a new course for her family after a violent and arbitrary act.
So this is, I didn't really realize, this never really registered until the credits, for me, but this is based on a true story. Like, this is
Yes.
a very famous case that, it's Brazil, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. That in Brazil, people like still talk about this. This is like a very famous thing that happened in their country, which really just hammered home how awful this was. Because like it's bad enough that like, oh, someone may have made this up for a movie, but it's also like when you get to the end and you're like, wow, that was not pleasant, and then the credits are like, by the way, this actually happened, and you're like,
And here's
wow,
where
this
these
sucks.
people are.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
This is
Yeah.
awful. I hate this.
Well, because it's definitely a story that's like, okay, horrible, believable that something like, maybe this is an accumulation of something that happened.
Right.
You know, like, you go, this isn't the true story, but, you know, there's stories from here and there and whatnot, and we combine them all into this horrible story. You know,
Yeah.
that happens. But this was like, no, all these things happened to this family,
Right.
specifically. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
So yeah, essentially, this very happy family, the husband is basically like, you know, air quotes, taken in for questioning. And then he just disappears. No one hears from him. No one can find him. They're like, his family has armed guards sitting in their house, making sure they don't go anywhere.
Yes, it happens during like a military coup, like a military what do I want to use?
Dictatorship.
Yeah, like occupation.
Yeah.
A military, like where like they were taking over, and so like, yes, you're being arrested, like you're being taken by the military, but they're not necessarily like looking out for you.
Yeah.
They're basically holding this like country hostage, essentially, and they take him in for questioning, and then he just doesn't come back, and then there's guards in their house with guns
Yeah.
that are just hanging out there until finally they leave, but the husband's not back. And then actually they don't leave.
They don't leave. They take her in.
Sorry, they take her in. They take the father of this family, and then they take the mother, and not just the mother, one of the daughters as well.
Yeah.
They take them in for questioning, and it is horrifying because
It's-
they put like bags over their
Yeah.
heads.
This is not like,
It feels like
hey,
you're
we're
getting kidnapped.
this is not like a, hey, we're gonna drive down to the precinct and you're gonna answer a few questions. This is, they put bags over their heads and they take them off and they're in a concrete prison.
Yes. Being questioned. And it's like terrifying because they're given this book and they're like, here's these faces of all these terrorists out there. Tell us if you recognize anyone. And then you're looking through, and then she like sees her husband's face in there. And they like she doesn't have any information to give them, so they throw a bag over her head and they throw her in a cell. They keep her separated from her daughter.
Yeah.
And then she gets taken back in and forced to look through the book again, and then it's like every time a new person that she knows is being put in there. It's like her
Yeah.
neighbors are in there now. And
And then
it's
it's
like,
and then it's her, and then it's her daughter.
yes. And then it's just like, it's terrifying because it's also like, okay, are these actual terrorists or are they just claiming they are? Like, you don't know what's real in that moment.
Yeah, and I mean that section was like straight out of a horror movie because like the entire time, like, yeah, she's being thrown in prison, she's being abused, but the entire time she's like, tell me, like, I just want to know that my husband and my daughter are safe.
Yeah,
And
where are
they
they?
don't tell her.
And they say nothing. And they finally release her, which was kind of wild. Like, it's just crazy. Like, they hold her captive for days.
I
And
think it was
like,
like 2 weeks, yeah.
yeah, and then they just release her.
They're
And
like, all right,
she
you can go.
goes home. And she goes home to her house where all of her kids have been without her, without her husband, just like living and surviving. They luckily had a, like, not a nanny, but like a caretaker for the house for the
Yeah,
kids. So at least there was like a kind of an adult there for them. And you find out the daughter was only kept for like a day or so,
yeah.
thankfully. But it's just horrible. And then she goes looking for answers about her husband, and she talks to her friends, and it's like they knew he was kidnapped and taken in, but then when they went to ask questions, the police are saying, we didn't take him.
Right.
He must be missing. We didn't do anything. We did not take him in for questioning. We have no record that we did anything with him. And it's like, okay, but you did take him though.
And it's like this weird gaslighting thing where it's like, yeah, we don't know. We never took him. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, you left with him though. Like, we saw him go with you. His car is at the jail. Like, like, it's such a weird, like, the way that a government, even an illegitimate, legitimate or illegitimate, I don't know much about Brazilian politics, but they just sweep it under the rug. And they're like, oh yeah, we basically disappeared this person, and there's
Yep.
nothing you can do about it.
And I guess slight spoilers for the movie, but I really want to talk about this, is the fact that she finds out, essentially, they find out that they killed her husband.
Yeah.
The scary thing that comes with that revelation is they know that he's dead. The government will not admit it.
And
And
as long as we're in spoiler territory here, they don't admit it until like 2014.
well, and what I was going to bring up is they don't admit it. She can't get any of their finances
Yeah,
because of that. Because they're like, well, your husband needs to sign off on this. But she's got nothing
there's no
saying
death
that
certificate.
there's no
Like,
death certificate. So she can't access any of her funds. She then needs to start selling things to then have cash on hand. Like, she has this house. She basically has to sell it for less than the property's worth because she's selling it without a title, because she can't get access to it because her husband's on it. And then she has to take less than the value of what it's worth and have that help her survive with her family, because they won't give her the death certificate. So in all intents and purposes, her husband's still alive legally, and she can't do anything. And so it just leaves them in this state of, I think it gets described by the person, like, it's a psychological torture, essentially. And yeah, so like 20 years later, 25 years later, in the 90s, because this happened in the late
70s?
60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
I can't fully remember when, but it wasn't until the 90s when the government finally admitted that he was dead, and she was able to get a death certificate
Yeah.
for him. And it's just wild, and it's so crazy to think of how she had to like basically survive. I mean, she knew pretty early on that her husband was gone.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but the government won't admit it.
Right.
So
and
it's like,
and she's just looking for that closure after a certain
yes,
point.
because at a certain point, she basically knows that they tortured him and killed him.
Yeah.
They were able to get some people within the government to say, yes, he's dead.
Yeah.
But that is off camera. No, like, we can't tell you anything officially. We will tell you he's dead. Stop asking us where he is. He's dead. Yeah. We can't tell you anything officially, though. So, for all intents and purposes, yeah, it's just, it's just crazy.
And her performance, Fernanda Torres, right?
Fernanda Torres, yep.
Was incredible. She was so good.
Yeah, so this is a good place to say, here's what it was nominated for. It got Best Picture, Best Lead Actress in a Leading Role, Fernanda Torres, Best International Feature Film. That's it, those three. Sorry.
Yep. And it won Best International Film.
Yes.
Which I think was more than deserved.
Call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other than that, I don't think I have much else to say about that.
Nope, it was a very good one. It was very much one that I was saying, if you're going to watch any foreign language film, make it that one.
Absolutely.
Because it was very good, very powerful. That's the movie that I remember sitting after the credits, and I cried. I didn't cry during it. It was once the credits rolled, I sat with it, and then I just started crying.
Yeah.
I did that with Nickel Boys too, but the specific moment I'm remembering happened with this movie. That's why I didn't remember our friend for Nickel Boys, because I was thinking of this one. All right. Moving on, I want to talk about Dune Part 2.
Yep.
Let's see how much we can say about this one.
The other Timmy Chalamet movie.
The other Timmy movie. All right. Paul Atreides? Paul Atreides unites with the Freemen while on a warpath of revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the universe, he endeavors to prevent a terrible future.
And I don't want you to get flamed online. You know that's Fremen.
Fremen.
Yeah. Kelsey does know that, everyone.
Listen,
Get out of the comments.
Get out of the comments.
No, you can leave comments, but
you're starting to hear the typing, the furious typing. Oh my God, Kelsey's gonna get torn apart.
No. So this is part 2. In between Dune 1 and 2, I went and read the book. They definitely make some changes. Some are whatever, honestly, but some are actually pretty good changes. And some were just changes for like, hey, we have to be able to put this on screen somehow.
Yeah.
This was also nominated for a lot of awards, mostly the technical ones. Do you want to run through that list?
All right, so it got Best Picture, Cinematography, Production Design, Sound, Visual Effects.
Yeah. And it won Best Sound and Best Visual Effects, which it's tremendous in those technical aspects. I don't really know what I can say about this because it's part 2.
Yeah.
I feel like anything I want to say is a spoiler. I think that based on Paul Atreides' arc in this part of the story, Timothée Chalamet did a really good job of making that turn with the character. And Zendaya also did a really good job with Chani.
Yeah, so, I mean, not much to say about Dune Part 2. Story-wise, if you liked Part 1, you'll probably like Part 2. I think it gets a little more into the politics of the world. I can't speak to the book because I haven't read the book yet. Chris has. He already mentioned some of the changes.
Yeah.
But we liked it.
Yeah. Again, I don't feel like yeah, let's just keep going. I don't really want to get
We don't
into
want to get
like
into spoiler
spoiler
territory.
territory. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now the final one that was nominated for Best Picture, Anora.
Honora.
All right. Here's the blurb. A young stripper from Brooklyn meets and impulsively marries the son of a Russian oligarch. Once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as his parents set out for New York to get the marriage annulled. Before we
So,
talk more about it,
okay.
we're just gonna quickly say what it was nominated for. Alright, so it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor in Yura Borsov,
Yep.
uh, Best Lead Actress in Mickey Madison,
Mikey, I think.
Mikey Madison, sorry, Best Director, Best Film Editing, Original Screenplay. Is that it? Must be.
So it
It
won
won a lot of the ones it was nominated for.
most of those. Yeah. I think only Best Supporting they didn't win.
Yeah.
But it won Best Picture. We made it to the Best Picture.
We found the
One
best picture.
It won Best Picture. It won Best Director, Best Lead Actress, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Film Editing.
Yes.
Yeah. Which
So, Chris, your thoughts on the movie Anora?
my very broad overview of the movie is this movie definitely sets itself up like it's going one way, and then it throws you an incredible left hook. And I loved it for that. It was nothing that I expected it to be. Like, once the second act hits, it feels like you're not watching the same movie you started off in the best way. Like, I had no idea where it was going. And that was really fun. Obviously, I have issues with the content of the movie, given that the writer-director was going around bragging about not using an intimacy coordinator. I find that
Yeah.
really odd, given the subject matter.
Right.
But I think that overall it was a good time, honestly. What did you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was something where I was like, okay, the first part, I was like, I'm kind of vibing with the movie. You know, I wasn't really like full on into the movie, but I was like, it's good. And then when it takes that like wild left turn, I was like dying from laughing. I did
It
not expect this movie to be as funny as it is.
the second act is like, I don't want to call it a slapstick comedy, but it is
But
like
it's got a
it's a
lot of
riot.
slapstick humor.
Yeah.
Like honestly, it literally I had moments where I was like, I feel like I'm watching Home Alone with the two goons. And it's amazing.
Which in a movie that like going into it when you are watching a Best Picture nominee, you kind of expect it to be like a certain amount of prestige. I don't want to say a certain amount of like pretentiousness, but there is a little bit of that like
Yeah.
that that like preconceived notion going in. But this was really good, and honestly, I think in a different year, the one award that they missed, that supporting actor, I think in a different year he could have had a really good shot at that.
Yeah. It's definitely hard. You feel for some of the some people certain years because you're like, man, you did a great job. It's just a stacked year.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
we talk all the time about how Taron Egerton did everything that Rami Malek did in Bohemian Rhapsody and more for Rocketman, and wasn't even
yes.
nominated.
Right. Which was so frustrating with Rami Malek winning. Not saying Rami Malek didn't deserve to win.
Right.
It's just that you look and then you're like, Taron Egerton, who did all of that and more. And I found I liked him in that role so much better. And he doesn't even get nominated. And it's
Right.
just like, what are you talking? But he came out during a very stacked year.
Yeah.
So
And I
it's
think
hard.
that his part of just a henchman who slowly becomes more and more aware and more relevant to the main story, like that was just such a cool angle. And you know us, we love we love getting a peek at the henchmen lives.
Yes.
Like, that is such a weird niche that, like, if you give attention to the henchmen, like, points. Bless you. That is
Listen.
so great.
It, Chris and I love this movie called Abominable.
Abominable.
Abominable, strictly because of the focus on the minor henchmen.
It's so
Like
good.
we quote a lot from that movie. None of it's from like the main things happening.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
So we're big henchmen like fans.
It's such a weird thing to say, but yes. And like this is
We
such
feel
a
for the everyday henchman.
and this is such a clear case of like he is like there's no way you can't describe him as a henchman.
No,
And like
he
it is solely focused on him realizing what a ridiculous situation he is in.
Yeah.
Like that's his part. And he eventually becomes like actually a very like a sensitive, very like relatable character too eventually.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I really liked Nora. Like I said, the one thing that's like sour about it is them kind of somewhat bragging about not using an intimacy coordinator. We're kind of big proponents of that in this
Definitely.
household. So that
It's
leaves me with like a sour taste in my mouth for it. It makes me not really want to recommend it, but I'm not going to say it's not a good movie because it is.
Yeah.
I just wish they would have made it a standard practice to have an intimacy coordinator
right.
on this movie. So,
Listen, audience, if you ever make a movie, just use an intimacy coordinator. It makes everyone
yeah.
feel better.
It's good, and you can't have the director be the intimacy coordinator,
Right.
because the director holds a station of power above the actors. No
Right.
matter how nice they are still in a position of power. Just get someone to not to do it for you.
You wouldn't do a stunt
really,
without a stunt coordinator. Just use an intimacy coordinator. It's so simple.
exactly.
Anyway,
Exactly.
I don't need to be on my soapbox.
We are now stepping off the soapbox. So there you have it. Those were all the best picture races. We did want to notate on, speaking of best supporting actor, and the reason why they weren't able to cinch that for Honora,
Yes.
best supporting actor went to Kieran Culkin for his role in A Real Pain.
Which hats off to Jesse Eisenberg, who
Yes.
wrote, directed, and starred in the movie.
Yep.
It was a really great film. A masterclass in restraint, as I like to say. It had a lot of big topics that basically he made as the background, the setting of this very tight-knit like family drama, which was really well done. And
Right.
Kieran Culkin's performance was outstanding. You could see all of everything bubbling under the surface, and he was just great at making that switch.
Right. Yeah, no, he was amazing. The movie was really good. Highly recommend that movie to anyone. I thought it was real great. So,
There's one part I will say that is one of the most powerful shots in the entire movie, and it's just each cast member is looking straight down the barrel of the camera, and it's incredibly powerful.
yeah. I agree. So to kind of close off this episode, we just want to talk a little bit about some movies that weren't, well, one of them that is on here was nominated, but the others are not. Just
Yeah.
some of the movies that we enjoyed that were not on this list that we talked about. So we'll talk about the first one that was nominated but didn't win, The Wild Robot.
Just an incredibly emotional, well done movie.
Yes.
That happens to be
James.
based on a children's book.
Yes. So, The Wild Robot is an animated movie. It lost out to Flow, which we still need to see.
Yeah.
Have heard amazing things. All intents and purposes, Flow deserved that win.
Yeah.
If Flow was not
On the board.
not on the board this year, Wild Robot would have won in a heartbeat, in my humble opinion. It's a great tale about found family. about what it means to belong somewhere.
Also has a really great thread about nature versus nurture.
Yes, very, very big thread. The
And
voice
it's,
acting in it is
oh my gosh, yeah.
incredible.
Stellar cast.
So, highly recommend. I cried at that movie like 3 different times.
I'm
So,
I'm not a big crier. There was one part where I could feel the tears coming.
you felt the tears coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, highly recommend The Wild Robot.
Yeah.
Another really good one, The Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy. This one is apparently a remake of a TV series from the 90s. It is essentially about a stuntman, and I don't really want to get into too much story details from there.
No, we don't need to talk too much about
But
it.
the movie itself plays out very much like a love letter to stunt work. It definitely dives into the process of doing stunts and like the kind of the behind the scenes people that make movies happen. And
Yeah.
as people who really like movies, it was a ton of fun. Plus,
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling kills it. Emily Blunt kills it. Hannah Waddingham kills it. Like, there's
Oh,
just nothing
love all these people.
nothing but people to love.
Yes. And I will say, the one thing I am upset about at the Oscars, and I don't know if they do that, the Oscars needs a stunt category.
I think
It really
yeah,
does.
I think it
And
would
I feel
go
like
a
this
long way.
movie helps prove that. Hi, editing Kelsey coming in here real quick just to say that there was an announcement that just happened the day I am editing this that the Oscars are finally introducing Best Stunts category at the Oscars. The first time it will be there will be for 2027, the 100th Oscars year. So that is exciting. We talked about how much we wanted it. We're so excited that that's actually going to be a category. So if you're at all interested in stunt work, watching it is really cool. And it's really cool because all of their stunt men working in the movie, quote unquote, because you're following a stunt guy, it's being done by all of their stunt people. So,
Yeah.
like, the stunt people themselves are all up in that movie
Yeah.
doing all the stunts, and they're kind of getting showcased, whereas normally they're just playing background when they're doing their stuff. They're getting showcased a lot more. I think there was a scene where they did like a car flip, and Ryan Gosling talked about the guy who helps him out of the car after the car flip happens was the stuntman who did the car flip.
Yeah.
He goes, it's a really weird scenario where he's helping me out of the car where he is the one who did that move. And so...
And they set several like stunt records doing that movie, which is
Yeah.
also really cool too.
It is.
So it's just a good time. It's nothing groundbreaking. We didn't really expect it to be nominated for any Oscars, but like
No.
it's just really fun, and it had like it because it was built to showcase some of the lesser known people who make movies. It was just a delight.
Right. All right, and then you had this one on here, which I also enjoyed, but I'm going to let you talk about it.
It's Mad Max Furiosa, which I just really liked that movie. I think that Chris Hemsworth is basically anytime he tries something new, we find out that Chris Hemsworth is really good at it.
Yeah.
They put him into Thor, and it turns out he's a really good leading man. They made Thor funny, and it turns out Chris Hemsworth is really funny. And they put him as Dementis, and it turns out he's an amazing bad guy. Like,
That's true.
just incredible, insanely memorable, just over the top goofy, which fits in perfectly with the Mad Max universe. And I also wanted to point out that we've talked about romance before, but Furiosa has one of the most romantic things I've ever seen in a movie. And it's when Jack sends up that green flare, basically telling her to stay away, and she goes back and rescues him anyway. Mm-hmm. Which...
she went back for him. It was so beautiful.
Their relationship was incredible, which it's, like, just tragically romantic.
Yes. Oh, so good.
And it perfectly, like, leads into Fury Road as a prequel, where if you watch them back to back, it would feel like they made it all at once. So.
Well, and they kind of did. they wrote the story of Furiosa before Mad Max Fury
Right.
Road. And so by the time, so like that whole story was fleshed out before you got to Fury Road, so it feels connected. And if you're gonna do a prequel like that,
Yeah.
because the thing that always bugs me about prequels is you go ahead and then it's like you try and give the character arcs, but you forget that the character needs to end
Right.
where they started. And a lot of times prequels try and get you, they forget of where the character started, so they
Right.
try to get you to where the character ends up in the movie, but like you can't do that. So
Yeah.
you can't give them an arc like that. You need to give them either a completely different arc, or you need to focus on something else. And what I liked is you could see that, and because they had that story, they gave it to Charlize Theron for Fury
Mm-hmm.
Road, and you could tell that she knew that story and
Right.
was able to like carry that character through it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was very, very good.
Yeah.
But I think we've talked enough.
Yeah.
Uh, we're very good on movies. Um, we love talking about movies, so we could go on, but we're gonna leave it there.
We could always talk more
Um,
about movies, but we won't.
we won't. We've talked a
Not
lot.
today, anyway.
When we talk about movies, we'll keep it to less than 10, 11, 12 movies to talk about at a time. That's it for this episode. Let us know in the comments what your favorite movie from the past year was.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear about it. Feel free, you can email us at thecouplethatslaystogether at gmail.com. Feel free to send us podcast idea suggestions. Feel free to reach out to us there. We want to say thanks again to our Extra Life donors. One reminder that Chris and I are participating in Extra Life all year for the year of 2025 as we raise money for our local children's hospital. So if you would like to donate, you could be on this list, of which we currently have one person, Pam, but we still appreciate her nonetheless for her donation.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for that. And we will see you next time.
Yeah. See you at the movies.
Yes, see you at the movies. All right. Bye.
Bye.